Bill Vick. I'm talking to David Thaler, and David is a recruiter par excellence. He's achieved that pinnacle of $1 million in billings in a year, and continues to lead the charge in the parade, if you will, to success and excellence. And David, I just have to tell you, it's a great pleasure speaking with you. You know, I wonder if you take a second and kind of give me that overview of what I call that 20,000-foot view of who you are, what you do, and what brought you to the party.
Sure. It's like, well, how far back do I start? I got a high school education. I don't have college. Had probably 15, 20 jobs, got married soon after I got out of high school. Stressed out, trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life. I've always known God had a plan for my life, but I was like, man, you know, as far as career-wise, what am I supposed to do? So I went through probably 10, 15 jobs in a matter of a year and a half, trying to figure out what I was going to do. And I got started first into the executive search business, I guess you could say, in a company called Interim Personnel. And a lady hired me. I got beat out to run a manufacturing plant for them by some girl out of college education, which ticked me off. But so then I had to, she said, but I really like you. I want you to come to work in Interim Personnel with me and recruit people for there. I did. Helped her out. We had great success. She moved over to a company called AOC, which is Accountants on Call. Then it was AES. Went there, and she said, David, you got to come. You got to try to come to this place. You're going to love it. You're going to make so much money. I said, well, what are we talking? She said, well, straight commission. I was like, what? What are you talking about? I got a family to support. She says, trust me, you'll do well at it. So I went in, had the worst interview of my life. I mean, it was so horrible. I couldn't even find my way out of the building. I was so flustered. And she called me back the next day and said, David, he loved you. I was like, what? Do you have the right person? It was the worst interview I ever had in my life. She says, no. He said you handled the stress well. I said, I couldn't even find my way out of the building. It was horrible. So he hired me. I went to HIT training. Ended up getting runner-up Rookie of the Year for the whole United States, and my segment was just Louisville, Kentucky. Got superstars, became one of the top producers in that company at that time, and was there, I want to say, I think it was 4.5 years, roughly. And then 9/11 hit, and another company called me and wanted me to come to work for them. And they cut our commission structure, and I ran the numbers. We're going to give you a big base salary, but I said, wait a second. As I ran the numbers, I said, I have to bill 4 times as much as I billed last year to make the same amount of money. So anyways, I decided to go to another company. After about 4.5, 5 years there, helped him get his perm division started. Last year with him, billed over $1 million in 1 year, and said it's time for me to go open my own practice. So I've been now here for roughly 9 years in my own business. So did I answer your question?
It's a great answer.
Okay.
How many times in your career, which is really an interesting path, have you hit that magic number, $1 million?
Only once. Only once.
And as you look at that year and the years to follow and the years that are, when you run, how does your day look? How does your business look day in and day out? What do you do?
Well, that's a great question. It was different when I was just a recruiter versus now running a whole business. I mean, it is easier when you're just on a desk, just strictly recruiting versus thinking everything, how do I work on the business instead of just in the business? How do I work strategically versus tactically? So what I used to do and what I do now are two different things, but I'm working on getting towards back to what I used to do in a day out and day in situation, because it's really your basic fundamental habits that cause you to be successful. I don't care. Anybody that's not successful in this business gets away from the basic fundamentals. And being on the phone is the main thing.
When you look at those fundamentals, David, and you look at, I'm sure you measure your performance and activities as all good recruiters do, but when you look at those kinds of numbers, what kind of numbers do you think generate success? What kind of call activity? What kind of market strength and depth? what kind of activity levels do you maintain to maintain your production?
Well, the key thing is being prepared, coming in prepared. If you're prepared for the next day, you're not wondering, who do I call next? What do I do next? That's what I found to be the number one issue, including with myself. When I'm not prepared, I'm not near as efficient with my time. If you come in prepared and you know exactly what you need to execute for the next day, it makes your life 100 times easier and takes the load, stress, and pressure off of you because you know what's got to be done. So if you pre-plan 50, 75, 100 marketing calls, and you get on the phone and you got a great what I call most placeable candidate or applicant, and you market the heck out of that person, you're going to get some return phone calls. You will get job searches, and then in turn, ultimately, your goal is to get a send out a day. If you get at least a send out a day, you're golden in this business. You'll make a lot of money. The key is send outs. That is the best indicator how successful you're going to be. But of course, you're not going to get a send out unless you're on the phone making marketing calls. You're not going to get any searches without those marketing calls. You're not going to get job orders, and then in turn, you're not going to get a send out. You know, it's like a big funnel. The top is what you do your activity on the phone, marketing calls. Then it trickles down to job orders. Then it trickles down to send outs, which trickles down to placements. It's a real simple formula. We try to make it complicated, but it's not rocket science.
You know, when you make those calls, be they marketing or recruiting, and it sounds to me, do you do both in a day's time?
Majority, I do. Yeah, sometimes I got two researchers that work with me, and they most of the time get the candidates for me. I'm more like the rainmaker. Mm-hmm. But at times when they're not getting candidates the way I need them to, absolutely I step it up and focus on get on the phone and recruit some candidates. That's the easy part to me.
You know, if you look at that time you spend marketing with a potential client and getting job orders and getting business, do you pre-script those calls? Do you have a template for those calls? How do you do them?
Absolutely. Everything I do is scripted. In fact, I've been working with another coach to kind of fine-tune that because there's different ways of marketing. And the key thing is measuring what's working and what's not. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to strength in numbers and law of averages. If you make 100 phone calls a day, you will, within that week period of time, if you make 500 marketing calls, you're going to get some activity. If you just do 1 or 2 marketing calls a day, you're not going to get activity. It is a numbers game.
Such an easy business, but so hard, isn't it?
Funnest, most exciting business you could ever be in when things are happening and you got lots of searches working on, lots of send outs. Most miserable business when you've got nothing going on. And I don't know about all you other recruiters out there, but I had this problem with, okay, I've got 5 searches I'm working on, recruit candidates, get send outs, fill them all. Then you're down at the bottom of this roller coaster. Oh no, I got to market, get some job searches, recruit, get them filled, instead of just being consistent doing the whole business the way you're supposed to every day in a consistent upward mode. And it's because I focus on the business more as a transaction than as a process, as Bob Marshall always taught me. And it's hard, it's difficult to stay focused on the process, doing everything you need to do day in and day out, which causes you to be consistently on the up curve instead of the hills and valleys, peaks and valleys.
Yeah. You know, David, as you kind of look down the pike, down the road a little bit, look in that crystal ball, do you see the business changing or shifting? Because there's so much talk today about the social media landscape, the LinkedIns and Twitters and Facebooks, and there's so little talk about what really makes placements happen. How do you see it evolving when you look down that road of 2-3 years out? Is a business going to change first? And if it is, how's it going to change?
Great question. The long and short answer is no. I don't see it changing much. Everything is done by the phone. If you're not on the phone and you're trying to do everything by internet and text and emails, you're not going to get the results. It takes picking up the phone, talking to people. Again, the basic fundamentals do not change. As it says in the Bible, there's nothing new under the sun. Take what works and apply it. Yes, there may be some nuances, things that you can do with social media. Yes, as the what do they call them, millennials grow up and become CEOs, there may be some nuanced changes. But the higher up people become, they realize you have to do business either in person or over the phone. You can't do everything by just email and texting. You don't get the interaction of the person like you do in person or over the phone. So nothing, in my opinion, will ever take the place of that.
So if I can say this is, I'm kind of looking at a meal and a plate in front of me and such. What I hear you saying is the social media may be the appetizer, but the phone is the entree and the main course.
Absolutely. And I will tell you another big issue, and even with me as well, all these other LinkedIn's and Facebooks and the Twitter account, that stuff is a distraction. If you look at the amount of time, if you measured your day, how much time you spend doing each part of your day, you'll find that consumes over half of your day, and that's not activity that's going to produce you money. Being on the phone, marketing a candidate, getting a send out, getting a job order, those are the things that lead to money. When you're wasting your time on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter, you're losing money. And it's become more of a distraction, I believe, than a more of a something that helps you build your business.
David, great, great words of wisdom and insight, and what I hear you saying resonates with me. I've talked to a number of other big billers like yourself who are pretty much saying the same thing in different ways. And I want to thank you for the time and the insights, and I just wish you great continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day.